The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Conn Report wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding, ding, ding. You can find us there as part of Empire Media. That's AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in, and you can read my work on ESPN.com, although to be honest, right now there's not a whole lot to say, but we're going to spend the next 20 minutes saying it. And as you can see, I'm joined by Michael Phillips from the Washington Times. There you go. Also has a radio show in Richmond. Michael, tell them where they can hear you.
910 The Fan, Monday through Friday, 10 to noon, MP on the mic. And I am very appreciative of them for giving us some material there in the last 5 minutes because it was looking bleak up to that point.
It was very bleak. And obviously, so we're going to talk about the quarterback because, I mean, there's so many big picture things with this team. They're 4-10. They did kind of fight back. They did have a chance. That's all great, but it is about the quarterback. So what did you draw? I know when we talked to Ron Rivera after the game, he said that they took out Sam Howell simply because they had a team that they're facing, getting ready to pin its ears back, and I think they just wanted to basically take him out. What did you make of that?
Yeah, and you mentioned they have I don't want to be Mr. well, they need to force more turnovers, and then after they force turnovers, be like, well, they were in the red zone, the Rams dominated them the whole time, but that's honestly how the game shook out. And I mean, if it weren't for the quarterback thing, we'd be talking about the long snapper, which is best served later in the show, not as the opening act. I mean, I think Eric Bieniemy is a big factor here too, right? I mean, he's a guy who is playing for his future in these last 4 weeks and wants head coaching opportunities and wants the opportunity to get to be a play caller somewhere else next year. And if he feels, there's something they can do to get a boost, to get some juice going, I think he owes it to himself and owes it to the team to do that. Look, it wasn't Sam's best game. We all saw it wasn't Sam's best game. The fact that Jacoby came in and was so decisive, so quick with the ball, kind of throws it all into relief. If Jacoby comes in and it's more of the same, then you say, it's just a stagnant offense. But he was working with not much of an offensive line there. That was right. I mean, that was a bad offensive line that was in at the end. He was quick. He was decisive. It was bad at the beginning, and it got worse. It's where we're at here. But in terms of Sam Howell and what he was, that quick decision making, quick getting the ball out, Jacoby showed us that.
He did, and I think there's a couple of things with that too. And Terry McLaurin came to life with him in there. Now, having said that, Howell did nearly connected with him on the one, and McLaurin's right arm is being held, but he almost makes a tremendous one-handed catch. Yeah. And so, it's not like they weren't going to him, but certainly a couple of those deep ones. And on those, McLaurin had to fight to get off press coverage, and he did. But I think what I liked from what I saw, and this is something, I was actually talking to McLaurin about this last week, and it was for a story I wrote on ESPN.com that about what you wanted to see the last 4 games. That was one of them, taking those contested shots. Mm-hmm. And I think he is one that, in fact, that 49-yard pass play was their first pass play by a receiver over 40 yards this year. That's incredible. Yeah. But so that's something that Jacoby brought. He also brought, there's 2 things that stood out when I went back and quickly watched some of his throws. The timing he was on schedule with it. Yep. He also sees over the line. Yeah. And he's about 6'4", something like that. So that gives that matters. It does matter. And then that's Howell doesn't. It's different. And you need to protect him a little bit more up front with that. But it's one advantage that Brissett has over other quarterbacks. But, how much meaning do you take from this again? Because Howell's a starter. And Rivera made that clear after the game. He's going to start the next 3 games, as he should. This is still about his development. But what did you make of some of what happened?
And Howell had good plays, the fourth down scramble where he ends up going downfield to Terry. Also, Jacoby targets Jahan Dotson, which hadn't happened in that game to that point, got everybody involved. We talk so often about Sam Howell, how he self-corrects, learns from his mistakes. In this case, you want him to learn from watching Jacoby and from what Jacoby did. What he did there, no offensive line, the timing throws, the quick decisions, having seen that at an NFL pace in an NFL game in this offense, can Sam do that next week? Can he replicate that next week?
Right. And I think that's the thing to learn. And because listen, when you talk to guys still about Howell, they're still very much they still very much like him.
Yes.
And, talking to Andrew Wiley, talking about what a good leader he is. And because of just his approach, the way he works and what a great teammate he is. I know the line really likes blocking. I know they like blocking for him. They know they like playing with him. Mm-hmm. So this isn't necessarily about that because he still has to grow with all this. But there are things that you have to learn. And I think it's a good thing to do. I also wonder how, one thing I'd like to go back and when I watch it, and by the way, I still do some semblance of a film review for Tuesday morning.
Good for you.
Good for me. It's like, there's three left, right? You got to keep it going. But part of it is, again, if his development is so important to this franchise, then I want to see what is he doing. And I think that's important, but also how our defense is attacking him, because if you know that there's some issues in the interior and that's where he's got to, it's harder for him there, you've got to attack that if you're a defense. So they're going to attack him a little bit differently. But yeah, learn from what he was doing.
Next three: Jets, Niners, Cowboys. It doesn't get easier from here. Defensive, if their defenses are all top of the league, top notch. This is a tough final 3 weeks for Sam Howell. They will be underdogs in all three of those games. If they lose all three of these games, we got to go there, John. If they lose all three of these games, they've got a top 3 draft pick. There are, by most accounts, 3 really good quarterbacks coming out in the draft. It's decision time.
Well, and I think, so what for you, just in your role as Johnny reporter,
guy who's watching this,
we've seen some of these before. In fact, we were talking after the game, like it was 2013, where they benched Robert with 3 games left to keep him healthy for the offseason. It's not taking place here. They believe in Howell. But, what do you want to see from Howell to say, not that he should just do, that he should be the guy going forward?
Yeah, just too many 3 and outs. Too many times where they get the ball, they give it right back. The defense is running back on the field. They're playing 7-8 minutes uncontested. I'd love to see some more in timing throws. Now, he did cut down on the sacks today. Only sacked 1 time. Also had 2 passes batted down today. So you say maybe that was the defensive focus today, was let's get some hands and contest these passes as opposed to let's bring him to the ground. So still the same number of generally disrupted throws. I do think he's made progress over the course of the year. I would love to see something that makes me say I can roll with that into next year, as opposed to I got to consider my options, because the options might be pretty good.
Right. And that's the thing. And we still need to know, you still have to go through the process, but I think what it does is it cements that you really need to, when whoever comes in, you have to fully evaluate. You can't just assume you're going to go get a guy. You can't assume you're not going to get a guy. Vet everything.
I'll make one more point on this, and that is that the past colors everything around here. And I know it's a new regime, and I know it's going to be new people, but we had Jay come in, had his hands tied with Robert. We had Ron come in, had his hands tied with Dwayne. You cannot let these sins of the past repeat themselves. The new regime has to be given full blank check to do whatever they feel is best at the quarterback position, even if that's somewhat unpopular.
And that's a good point. And I do think the one thing that this team franchise now has going for it is you have an owner who does not have the reputation for meddling. So this is not a Dan Snyder. It's not even David Tepper.
No.
So I think that's one thing that is a good situation. Like for every, if you want to see Howell, if you don't want to see him, if you want to see whatever, just know that it will be a football decision based on people they're bringing in, and not based on the whims of an owner or the desires of an owner because because you saw him play in high school or because like this guy can sell tickets. This is going to be a football decision.
Yep.
And I think, listen, they don't have to worry about selling tickets. They're going to sell tickets this offseason because of whoever they bring in. And there's now a renewed hope overall,
Sure. And that this could take 2 or 3 years. I think that's been my tough realization, because a month ago, I think you had me on and said, hey, you can rebuild this thing on the fly. You got the cap space, you got the draft picks, bring in some good people. You can get contending right away. just the more I watched over these last few weeks, there are so few pieces to build with here. It's bleak.
And that's what I was going to ask you too, because yes, a few weeks ago, and this is why I say the blowout suggests not that you're just going to draft high, but that you need a lot.
And you're losing by 21 to, with all due respect to Sean McVay, who's a great coach, a fine NFL team. That's a 500. That's a 500 NFL team. They're not. Look, some of the cornerbacks are down there talking, well, is Cooper Kupp? What can you do? He's a great receiver. I don't want to be intimidated by Cooper Kupp. No disrespect, Mr. Kupp, if you're out there listening. I think you're a fine NFL receiver, but by the way, nobody's squeaking in fear here.
If Cooper Kupp is listening, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and Cooper, you can find us there as part of Empire Media. So there you go. Just in case. And shout out to the Kupp family. But yeah, well, I think that's a good point. But it shouldn't say concern me, because I think there's a lot of things to be positive about going forward because of who's in charge and because the cap space, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of good things, but there are going to be a lot of questions as to how much work is it going to take to get back up there? Is it as simple as changing coaches? Because it really isn't. Usually, there's usually that, you win 3 games, you change a coach, you win 5 games. Not always. It can be done. We've seen it. There are coaches this year who are doing it. There are teams this year. I mean, shoot, the Browns are 9-5 and they've lost a third of their roster almost.
Giants last year, great example. I had that team fully written off coming into the season. The coach was the difference there.
So it can certainly, the coach and some of the guys they brought in, the defensive coordinator. So there's a lot of ways you can get it up there, but this is not a quick fix anymore. And I think that's where I'd like to see from Howell is to make it a no-brainer for them. And I don't put everything on him. I mean, you look at the line, you have to improve the line. I don't think it's as simple as you draft a tackle at 4 and now problem solved. That's part of the solution, not the full thing, right? So there's a lot that goes into it.
I'll also say this, I want to give you the very hottest takes here on the John Keim report. If you draft a quarterback in the top 3, I'm keeping him in the building. I'm not trading him. A valuable backup is a very valuable commodity in this NFL. I would guess far more teams have started a backup this year than haven't started a backup this year. I would very much be out in front with, we're not giving up on Sam. He's an important part of our future.
But I would say for me, it would depend on what somebody's willing to give you.
Yeah.
So if somebody's willing to give you something that's valuable, then I would look into it. But to your point, I'd be happy if they brought Jacoby Brissett back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because that guy's been invaluable to Sam Howell. And I'm not ready to dismiss Sam Howell by any means. I like the kid. I think there's so many, and you talk about the off-schedule plays, those are valuable. I think what you need to get back to is getting some more throws in rhythm for him.
All I want for the holidays this year is some NBA action. This week, new customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets just for betting $5, an instant dub just for you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KEIM, K-E-I-M. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on basketball. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code KEIM. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/basketball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
It was also disappointing with some of the, this isn't him because he wasn't in the game, but some of those runs at the end, couldn't punch it in. But that's indicative of some issues up front too.
Yeah, there's also, they didn't coach to win at the end, even though I felt like they were technically in the game. 5 minutes left, you're going to punch in the score to make it a 7-point game. Then 3 minutes later, you actually punch that in on the other side of the 2-minute warning when you didn't have to do it on the other side of the 2-minute warning. Then you don't go for 2. They didn't coach to win at the end, which it felt like to me was an overreaction to how far down you were earlier. I think they're still in the game.
Oh, they're definitely still in the game. I think my issue with it was much that they couldn't punch it in on the ground, and they kept it stopped. So but you got, I think not having Larson in there at that point.
Why didn't you bring Antonio Gibson in for any of those runs?
I don't know.
That was all Chris Rodriguez.
Well, I will say, I think Rodriguez in the short yardage, I like him better. I think he's a more powerful runner with that.
He got several tries,
He
and
did.
Antonio Gibson's just standing there. He's an NFL player.
I agree,
Ooh.
but I do like I think Rodriguez runs with a little bit more power when you go to the fullback. But the problem was,
I think that's a great reasoning, John, to give first down to Chris Rodriguez. And then there we are on try number 6, and Gibson's still standing on the bench.
Okay,
that's aggressive.
That's fair. That's fair. So because with when you have Gibson in there, to your point, it keeps alive multiple options because you can play action with him and throw to him, whatever. So listen, what they did didn't work. So everything is up for debate. So it's all fair. Cam Cheeseman.
Ron is never we hear all the time, and it is true. He is a very classy guy, and he is well respected around the league, and he's never going to stand at the podium and cut a guy or chew out a guy. That's as close as you'll ever get today. We're going to evaluate the position. That wasn't good enough. I'll just put that through the translator, and it spits out the other side. Cam Cheeseman's not going to be with this team much longer.
And by the time people hear this, it already happened. Yeah. But Cheeseman said after the game, he said, most places I wouldn't be here now. And he's right. But I know they had the tryouts early in the year, and in talking to even Nate Katcher, the thought was they didn't snap it as well as he did, which I wonder what they didn't see. But at this point, he was rolling them back there, and there were multiple bad snaps today, multiple. And you can't have that.
Missed extra point there at the end to cut it to 7. I disagree with the decision to kick the extra point, but if you're going to kick it,
you kind of want to make it.
Do go ahead and make it. Yeah, the triple bouncer to Tress where he gets blown up and has to
He had one earlier in the game to Tress where it was at his ankles.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough. We talk about guys who are protected because of their draft status, right? He's a first rounder. He's going to get a lot of chances to succeed. Trey Lance, man, the Cowboys are going to take a chance on him. He was a first rounder. Guys saw something in him. Have you ever in your life heard of a long snapper protected by his draft status? He was. They traded draft picks for him. It's a bad headline to cut the long snapper you traded a 5th round draft pick for.
It wasn't a good headline to draft the long snapper. That's another story. But, if the guy comes through and he's great for 20 years, okay, but that's not what's happening. So I think that they're in a tough, I don't know that they're in a tough spot. I think I feel bad for a guy like Cam because he doesn't want to do this. And the guy was pretty good. He was fine the first couple of years, but not this year. And this is the latest year to go on. And it's been throughout the year.
This is the NFL. There's a carousel of specialists. He will get chances to do this.
Yes.
Elsewhere.
Oh yeah. And he'll
same with the kicker who gets the yips, gets cut. You see him somewhere else in a couple of months.
Correct.
They get another chance.
They do. 2 more things. Defensive backs, blown coverage again. Anything there for you?
I appreciated St. Juice owning up to what it was after the game, which was he said we've got 2 ways to play that. And we both played it. They both played it a different way, and we can't have that. I thought that was, just a good, honest summation of what happened there. We always hear guys under miscommunication or working together, whatever. They say, hey, we got 2 ways to play that. One person's doing it one way, the other person's doing it another way. We cannot have that. It doesn't make it any better. I just appreciated that.
Yes.
That owning up to it.
I agree, and I do think though. That is a communication thing.
Sure.
You've got to make sure. But that's been my problem. The secondary the whole year. And it gets old talking about it because it's the same issue. And, and I don't think they have someone back there. They need a safety who can really yap it up next year. They really do, because you need to have someone who can communicate the message from here to here to here. And I pointed this out against when they played the Dolphins, you'd see the communication. You could see it. You can see the fingers, all the arms moving, guys on the same page. It just hasn't happened all year. For next year, you've got to bring somebody in some capacity who can get that fixed.
How long have they needed that for? You've been here longer than me.
It's been a while. And I will say, the second half of last year, you look at the stats, they were good in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll be honest, and I brought him up before, but Bobby McCain was not an all-pro player. He was not a Pro Bowl player. He was a fringe starter. He's a good communicator back there. So you need to get a better version of that. Yeah. So go find a better version of that. Somebody in it. You can run with some of these safeties back there because they're good, but you need somebody who can communicate that message. And that's an off-season wish list. Last thing, Terry McLaurin, first game over 100 yards.
Yeah, about time. Jacoby gave him a chance, right? What was that? We always said, Taylor Heineke, one of the reasons you liked him was just gave his best player a chance to make a play. And that keeps everybody happy when you give your best player a chance to make plays. I loved seeing Terry McLaurin make plays. Before you rave about Terry McLaurin making plays, because he was awesome today. The one-handed catch was great and I think should have stood. I did not like the part where Sam Howell got him killed on that 4th down crossing route, where the linebacker's just hanging out there like licking his chops like I'm about to destroy Terry McLaurin. I didn't like that.
That was a brutal one. And there was one earlier in the game too where Howell McLaurin had a one-on-one on the left and wins.
Yes.
Doesn't get it. It happens. But that's like, I remember thinking the first thought was like, that's the situation that McLaurin was talking about the other day, where you get the situation, we've got to make it, he's saying this, not me. We've got to make it work. That's what he says.
Yeah.
But that's, and I think that's where, and that's what Jacoby did. And I think that's where Howell has to kind of graduate to with him. And he did give him a shot later.
Yeah.
But that's something where, get that guy one-on-one contested catches. He can do it. He hasn't lost a step. He's still a good receiver.
Goodness.
And we saw
the one-handed catch while being interfered with. And I think he actually caught the ball. Good. I mean,
that's
what a play.
Yeah. I'm like, he had to make one-handed catch because I put out his right arm was unavailable. So that's because the guy was,
I like that.
And then I guess we didn't even get into the whole, we're not getting into job situation because the job situation is what it is. And Rivera's not going anywhere. The other jobs have opened up. They're not getting a head start on anything because every team's making a list right now. And so
there's no advantage.
No.
No.
There you go. And that's for another day. So there you go.
We got all week. He'll be here all week, folks.
Live from the sterile room inside SoFi Stadium with Michael Phillips. Thanks to Mike for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I'll be back Tuesday morning with quarterback comments review. But then Tuesday night, 7:30 live stream show with Nikki Jabal from the Washington Post. Talk to you next time.